Should I ask you like the intro of your entire life?
Yeah.
Like on Mormon stories? Now, why don't you rewind and tell us where you were born?
Yeah. Do you want me to start with how I got into gardening as a child? Where my gardening story started?
Welcome to Gardening Utah. I'm your host, Jana Francis, and it is Friday, May 26th, kicking off the Memorial Day weekend, recording a show for you guys so that hopefully you can enjoy listening to this while you're gardening on Memorial Day weekend, which is pretty much the perfect time to plant. Now, with me here today is a special guest who has never been on the podcast before, so this is a first-time guest. And actually, the guest today, I'm going to warn you, is not a horticulturist or a master gardener. He's shaking his head no.
Nope.
He's actually live in studio with me here today. So the title of today's podcast is Practical Tips for the Gardener. And so that's what you're going to be getting today. Today, my guest is my husband, Eric. Eric, welcome to your Gardening Utah debut.
Thank you. Good to be here. Hi, everybody. Thanks for listening. I think you've mentioned me a couple of times, but probably not by name. But yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks. I've heard you record pretty much all of them, so I get a little bit of each episode kind of as I walk by your studio. But yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks.
Yes, so we made a joke kind of at the beginning when we were not really recording, but so you've never been on a podcast before. You've actually
listened to a couple thousand podcasts.
Yes, so you are a heavy-duty podcast listener.
Yes.
But you've never actually recorded a podcast. Have you ever recorded anything with a microphone before?
Nope.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So I have some radio background, so I've used to record. I wasn't a DJ or anything like that, or a news radio host, but I definitely recorded a lot of radio commercials in my day. So a microphone is not foreign to me, but so this is my husband's very, first intro to podcasting. But again, heavy podcast listener, what are your favorite podcasts?
Well, yours first and foremost.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The good answer.
Yep. And then Armchair Expert is a great one. They've got a couple different ones that I listen to.
Dax Shepard.
Yep. Mormon Stories is another good one.
Yep.
That I listen to quite a bit.
Love John DeLynn.
Yeah. So those are the easy ones. And then just anything that pops up in the suggestions from those other podcasts. So what I've learned is when you listen to a podcast, they refer you to multiple podcasts to listen to. So, but yeah. Those are some of the ones that I listen to quite a bit.
Okay, so we joked at the beginning, tell us about your gardening history, but honestly, so the reason Eric's on the show today is because he'll come home from work and he will have listened to one of my shows and he'll say something like, yeah, but you didn't say this, or you didn't say this, or as he's out gardening, he will think of things that, oh, you should talk about this on the show. And so he's been making a list, come to find out, for quite some time.
Yeah. My favorite thing on my iPhone or whatever, smartphone, whatever, is I call them the yellow pages. So your notes. And when I have a thought, if I don't write it down, it's gone. And so within about 5 seconds. So everything is written down for me. Or I use also the second favorite thing on my phone is taking pictures of things, ideas that I see, either in our yard or if I'm driving around or in a store, take a picture of it, and then that idea, that I had in that moment can come back with either a note or a picture. So do you want me to tell you my gardening's life story?
Oh yeah, so let's rewind. Yes. Eric, okay. Why don't you tell us?
Okay,
so now I'm channeling my inner John DeLynn, and if you listen to Mormon Stories, you know what we're talking about. But Eric, why don't you tell us the beginning of your gardening?
All right, I had the great privilege of growing up in Southern California, in the Vista area. And so we were just, 10, 15 minutes away from the ocean. So everything grew there. As a kid, picking pomegranates, avocados, oranges.
Jealous.
Everything that, as kids, we would just go out and explore, and we would just stop at someone's yard, pick something to eat. And then my mom loved to garden. She grew up in the Midwest, Iowa, so she loved to garden. And that's kind of where I spent time with her a lot, was in the garden. So we were always doing corn, watermelon, beans, pumpkins, all those kinds of things. We could just grow them any time of the year in Southern California. And Jan and I were celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary.
Hey, don't age me like that.
Oh, sorry, this year. And when we got married, I just didn't know that she loved gardening so much. And listening to KSL, I don't know if I'm even supposed to say that now.
You absolutely can say KSL News Radio
the
Greenhouse Show.
Yeah, the Greenhouse Show. So we started, going garage selling and on Saturday and listening to that. So we would always listen to that and then go garage selling. But then the next biggest thing that I remember learning a lot was her grandparents' house in Murray, Utah. We would spend a lot of time with Jana's parents at her grandparents' house in Murray and learning from those generations of, planting different things at specific times and when you're going to be able to harvest them, and then how to take care of a fruit tree, a stone fruit here in Utah. Never really did that. So anyways, those are just kind of some things that I really kind of look back at learning a lot from are those two experiences, Southern California and then the Murray area. And then Jana just, started deep diving and learning everything she could. And once she learned it, she never forgot it. So that's kind of where I got a lot of the background. And then for me, I just love being outside. So being outside and gardening kind of go hand in hand. And I don't know if I'm a gardener, more of a yard cleanup expert.
Yeah, that's true. It's not like you're planting petunias and you're not like soaking seeds for 8 hours before you plant and all those things.
No, but when you do leave for a business trip or go out of town, I then become that helper. So
that's true. And I do go on business trips often. Not for this show, but for my day job. But actually, you know what? You gave me some inspiration just now because when you did mention the Greenhouse Show, which I can say here on Gardening Utah now.
Of course.
Because I've never been able to tell my gardening history beyond what you just mentioned, which is, gardening in my grandparents' backyard.
All right, Jana, well then go back in time.
I know.
Where did your gardening
story
start?
Are you the interviewer now?
Yeah. No crying either.
Oh, no, I won't cry. Okay, so, I can say this now that I'm not on the radio and on a competing radio station. So, when my mom and I, before we got married, we lived in Park City, but we would love to drive on Saturday mornings down to the 48 South Holiday-ish area and go to the garage sales in like Walker Lane and all those really beautiful homes.
Sure.
And we listened to the KSL Greenhouse Show back in the day with good old Larry Sagers and Don Schaefer. This ages me tremendously, but I was a teenager. We're listening to that show. And I don't know, it just kind of epitomized the weekend for me. Yep. Like, it sort of set the weekend with like, okay, it's time to aerate the lawn. Or, all right, this is why, everybody's calling in relatively about the same thing, right?
Sure.
Because everybody's experiencing something very similar.
Crabgrass, cherry blossom rot.
I don't think it's called cherry blossom rot.
Tomato and rot. Yeah, sorry.
Blossom and rot on
there
tomatoes. There you go. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Gall. That's going to be a big conversation this year, I'm sure, as it furthers into the tomato gardening season. But anyway, so we would listen to the Greenhouse Show. And here's kind of what's interesting about it is then when Eric and I got married, then we did the same thing. We lived in Park City as well, but then we'd drive to Salt Lake. Park City wasn't as populated back then, so there wasn't very many garage sales, and you'd have to drive 15 minutes away to hit one. Right. So we'd go to the nice neighborhoods in Salt Lake. Anyway, loved the Greenhouse Show, and then we moved to San Francisco Bay Area to put you through chiropractic school. And at the time, we had our double wide mobile home. And it had this most beautiful we made it beautiful. But it was
a rock yard in the back. So we tore up the rocks.
Oh, that's right.
And we would put them in the back of our Saturn, take the rocks to the trash dump, whatever. And then we got some sod. So we turned it into a really nice yard.
That's true. I forgot about the lava rock. Oh, boy.
But again, anything would grow. And so it was fun to experiment with different things, different types of flowers and vegetables. And then our neighbors had a lemon tree, and a grapefruit tree and an orange tree that reached over into our yard.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I'll never forget Easton, at the time. He's now 29 years old. But
Now you're dating yourself.
now I'm dating myself, exactly. But I'll never forget, he was about 4 years old. And I was picking lemons and kind of trimming the lemon tree on our side. And he said, "Mom, you need to get out from underneath that lemon tree. You're going to get lemonade all over yourself." Anyway, wow. Okay, so anyway, we moved to San Francisco, and that's really when we had our own like little tiny area to really be in charge of. And the retired gentleman that we purchased the mobile home from, he had a bunch of iris, and you guys know how much I love iris. It's no secret, partially because of gardening in my grandma's yard that you just talked about, because my grandma was obsessed with iris, and she'd have all the catalogs and, oh, look at this one, I ordered this one. Anyway, he had iris that I hadn't seen before, which we actually have brought back to Utah through the years and taken them to the 2 houses we've lived in here in Utah, and they're blooming right now as we speak. And he told me the name was Sand and Sea. There's a picture on my Instagram of it, but I'll make sure to post another one this weekend for those of you that listen to the show. If you want to see a picture of Sand and Sea iris.
Can I tell you a quick story about your iris, that same iris? So we went to a place, probably the first garden place that specifically had a specific plant. It was called Marriott Iris Gardens in the San Jose area.
Oh my gosh.
And we bought a couple of iris, and we started planting iris around our double-wide trailer. Anyways, the last couple of weeks, we've been told or contacted by people. When we moved, we pulled a bunch out and brought home, but we also gave iris or sent those iris to people. And that is now, 27, 28 years since then, or 25. Anyways, but they still have them in their yards, and they've then pulled them and moved to a second home or a different state. And so it's just amazing how, a couple plants that you get thinking, it's just for one yard, but then it gives, a lot of joy and happiness to people if you start sharing what you have in your yard, just little things like that. So that was kind of a fun start for us. Really, that's where we started, was the iris place.
It's so true, because that's one thing I love about iris, is that there's a memory with each color, and as you can share and divide, and then it's like, oh, that was my grandma's iris, that one came from our old house in San Francisco, that came from this place. Anyway, so we had this beautiful plot. We had climbing roses, and we planted climbing roses. We planted camellias. Did I say that right? Call it azaleas. I don't think it's camellia. Anyway, maybe it is. It's been a while since I did Bay Area gardening, y'all.
Someone will fact check us.
Yeah. Oh, and the freesias. Oh, my Lanta. That just aged me, too.
Yeah.
But like the freesia, if you have never smelled freesia, oh my word. And it would we had it in the front boxes, and I would go on walks at night and smell the freesia. And they have it at Cactus and Tropical sometimes.
So the front box that she's talking about, a quick story is, it used to just have a small red brick, like 3 inches high.
Oh, yeah.
And a drunk driver drove into it one night and crushed it and tore up the whole front area. So then went and found who it was, because it was someone in our neighborhood. And then the insurance paid for a new one. So then we got like a 2-foot high box put in of stone, and then we gained, I don't know how many square feet of gardening space, and it was awesome. Anyways, so we went from this small spot to this big one, and then the front, everybody would stop and tell us how amazing our front spot was, because we were limited on square footage.
Oh yeah.
And so once that guy ran into it, we gained a lot. So but that became your pride and joy, was that front spot.
Absolutely. That memory was completely erased from my brain.
This could be a 3-hour podcast if we don't get focused.
I got to get back to my KSL story.
Jeez.
Okay, so greenhouse show, okay? I'll never forget this either. I missed the KSL greenhouse show so bad when I moved to California. And there was no way to listen to it. This is before streaming and all that. And so anytime we visited home, I was like so excited for Saturday so I could listen to KSL. Anyway, now it's my friend Maria Shaleos. Well, actually, I'll rewind. So let me finish the story.
She does a great job.
I know. I love Maria.
Great job.
Okay, so when we moved back to Utah from San Francisco, continued to work for the same company that I'd worked for. And crazy enough, in the year 2000, got to work from home. But I did have to travel a lot back and forth to San Francisco. And so the traveling was a lot because I was pregnant with my second child. Or no, he was born. So newborn. He was he was a newborn. And so it was really hard to travel as much as I needed to with a newborn. So I was like, I have got to find something local because it is just going to San Francisco 3 days a week and literally over and back. I mean, they knew me at the airport. It was insane. Anyway, so I was literally on the KSL Greenhouse website. And I was like, I wonder if KSL has any jobs open just for fun, because I was looking at something on the KSL Greenhouse site. Fast forward, I ended up getting a job at KSL in 2001-ish and worked there for 8 years and had a great career in media at KSL.
And got to know everybody at the Greenhouse show really well.
Yeah, it was
and
wild.
sold advertisement for it.
I did.
Yeah,
I sold
it
advertisement.
Came full circle for you.
Yeah, I sold advertisement for KSL Greenhouse for many years. Not just KSL Greenhouse, but BYU Sports, KSL Radio, and all the music stations that they have, FM 100 and 103.5 The Arrow and whatnot. But I had a blast at KSL, and yeah, so that's how I kind of know the KSL folk that still work there and still do the Greenhouse show. So when I listen to KSL Radio, I feel like I'm listening to a piece of home, which obviously I am. Anyway.
And it's Maria and...
Ton Bettis.
Yes. Yeah. He does really well answering the questions that I know get repeated, so he's very patient.
He is very patient.
Very patient. He does a really good job.
Yes, absolutely, of course. And a lot of our good friends that have been on this show sometimes are on that show too.
Yeah.
So
Can I say something about your old guest, or not old guest, but the guest that you've had on before? Thank you.
Oh!
Thank you for coming on a show that, is new and
sure.
It's not the Greenhouse show or anything, but for supporting Jana, and a lot of those individuals have been turned into really good friends of yours. And
absolutely.
Over Mother's Day, my gift to Jana was, let's go to plant sales.
Oh, yeah.
And gardening centers, and I will drive you around, and I will not complain. I don't care how long it takes. You can buy whatever you want, because, buy whatever you want. It's not the price. It's that you pay. It's the time that you pay planting them in the yard, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's like, "Oh, that's a great choice." I'm like, "Yeah." Every time she pulls a plant in, it's more work. An extra 5 minutes. Anyways, we had a great time, but. The point that I was trying to say is everywhere we went, the conversation became a friendship with the people that you had on the podcast before. You ran into, 5 or 6 different people. So
that's
those
true.
Who have been on the podcast before, thank you. All the shows were amazing. You guys did great. And I know Jana learned a lot from you, and a lot of people learned a lot of things that you had to share. And it's just amazing, the gardening landscape community that's everywhere, but especially in Utah. It's an amazing group of people, and I've got to know them just a little bit, but man, they're fun. They know so much, and a lot of people want to have outdoor events and parties in their yard, and these people know how to do that.
Oh, you're talking about Liz Hamilton, aren't you?
No.
We've been to a few backyard barbecues at Liz's house.
Great food, great company.
Of course, yes. Oh, that's very nice. That was very unexpected. I didn't think you were going to... But yeah, it was... So tell them where we went.
So we first started out at Wasatch Community Gardens cell up at the Roland Hall area. And boy, they had to deal with some serious wind and rain that morning. But got a lot of good stuff there, learned a lot of stuff, met a lot of cool people.
And you were the one that said, there's Liz.
And then from there, we went up to the Red Butte Gardens sale. And just go spend a day there. Start off in the morning when it's cool.
Honestly.
Unbelievable. I mean, just gorgeous. Once the water stops flowing out of the mountains, it seemed a little sketch around the rivers and streams and stuff up there. But anyways, it was gorgeous. They had it all organized so well, spread out. I mean, they had volunteers everywhere at both places, both Wasatch and Red Butte, to answer questions and stuff. So that was a really cool experience. I've never done anything like that big and stuff. And then we went to 48th Street.
Oh yes, we went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
42nd
oh,
Street
sorry.
Greenhouse.
Let me repeat that. 42nd Street Greenhouse.
Yep.
And saw
Cynthia.
Cynthia and talked to her and
Yep.
learned the story about that location and how. I mean, it's amazing. They did an incredible job, and they had a really cool adult only section that was fantastic. That's where I was saying these people are amazing. They've got sense of humor. They,
Oh,
anyways,
Cynthia's amazing.
it's awesome. If you get a chance, go.
Oh, of course. And I'll just mention this. Cynthia does have a Memorial Day weekend sale. I just saw on her Instagram for 42nd Street Greenhouse. And she's also Melon Monologues on the show. I think she was like episode 15 or something. She's going to come back when when they're done, at like end of June.
Yeah.
So, but she does have a sale this weekend on petunias. I think 6 packs of petunias are $2.50. So you're going to have to beat me to it because I'll be there tomorrow. I'm also going to Lambert's tomorrow. Oh, should I be telling you I'm buying more plants?
All right, so that's actually, if we want to get to my notes, that's actually one of my notes.
Well, hold on. I need to finish my story.
Oh.
So I have this 8-year career at KSL, and then I start my own business. And it went insane. If any of you have ever heard of the website Baby Steals or Steals.com or Kid Steals, that was me. And then sold in 2020. And anyway, so I've got a lot of, experience in media, and now I'm back in e-commerce. But that's for another topic. So anyway.
And a side gig of a podcast.
But we just do this for fun. But honestly, the whole reason that I ended up with a career in media was because of my obsession with gardening. And a lot of that was inspired by the KSL Greenhouse Show. Anyway, well, speaking of plant sales this weekend for Memorial Day, I want to tell you guys about a special going on at American Stone that you're not going to want to miss, especially if you have a DIY project going on at your place, or if you might need to hire somebody to help. You definitely need to hear about what's going on at American Stone, and we're going to talk to Russ Fellows right now.
So the big special for this Memorial Day weekend is a great product called Cherokee Red, and we are offering what we call a patio kit, and it's 100 square feet of Cherokee Red 2-inch patio, and you also get the sand that would go under that, and then the weed barrier that would go under that, and this whole kit is $299. So it is a fantastic deal for right now. Beautiful stone. It's quarried just east of Heber City, and anybody who likes kind of that red tinge will love this in their yard.
It's gorgeous. I was just telling our listeners that I was lucky enough to take a tour of American Stone the other day, and you and Jason gave me the royal treatment walking around and looking all the different colors, and Cherokee it's just beautiful. And there was so many other selections too of colors and sizes as well.
There are. You really can do a little bit of anything and everything you want. So of course we do have that very special thing for this weekend, but we're also doing a little bit different. So if maybe red isn't quite your shtick, we will also offer all of the other flagstones that are that 2-inch variety. And if you pay full price for those flagstones, we'll throw in the weed barrier and the sand for free for that 10 square feet patio kit.
Oh, that's a great deal. And yeah, it's kind of like a one-stop shop. You're not having to go and pick up all those supplies somewhere else too.
Absolutely. And even having said that, if you need a shovel or you need some other tools and material, we also carry those things.
Well, and the other thing I noticed being at American Stone is so different than when you're going to, a big box store and you're walking around wondering, how in the world am I to accomplish this? At American Stone, you've got the experts there that know what they're doing, that can talk to you about your project.
Yes, like you mentioned, you would talk to Jason in our yard, and he's one of our yard managers. But most of the guys who work for us, most of the sales folks, they've been in the business for a long time. So they've done the work. They understand what it takes and what you need. So if you are a DIYer and you think you can dive into a project like this, they can help you understand exactly the things you will need to get. Now, if you get in there and it's a little over your head, you might want to consult with them about some of the contractors and other landscapers that we have formed partnerships with, and they can find somebody who can do just the right job for you as well.
And that's such a good value add as well, that they can not only help consult on the project on how to do it yourself, but if it's starting to get a little out of scope, which many outdoor projects do, they can help you find somebody to, help you get it done.
Yes, they can. We have a great group of folks who work at the front counter, and they're ready to help everybody.
One other thing that I noticed that to me really stood out was, okay, so let's say you're getting maybe 2 pallets of the 200 feet of the stone, and you need just a little bit more to finish off the project. Usually you have to go and buy a whole additional pallet, and in this case, as long as you're buying the initial one, you're able to add on just that few more, correct?
That is correct. And they can help you measure that stuff out so you know exactly what you do need. So, yes, you can get that initial pallet. And then if you just need a little bit extra, or even if you're getting like 3 or 4 pallets because you've got a large area, each of those pallets, each of those 10 square feet counts as one of the patio kits. And you get that $2.99 special.
That's fantastic. $2.99 this weekend, and it actually goes through. So I know you're closed on Sunday, but you're open Memorial Day. But the sale goes through what day again?
It goes through the 3rd of June. And so anybody who comes in and does that before then, they can take advantage of this special.
And tell our listeners where the locations are.
You bet. So we have 3 locations here in Utah. And if for some reason you happen to be listening to us and you're in Washington, we've got a spot in Vancouver, Washington. But the ones here in Utah are in Sunset and Heber City, and also here, of course, in Salt Lake City.
And that's the one I toured the other day. And I'm telling you, so if you're a plant lover like me, Gardening Utah listeners, if you go, make sure if you go there, go inside the building, because there is the most beautiful pond in an indoor fountain with some gorgeous indoor plants like philodendron and spider plant and monsteras. And if you're a house plant geek like me, you are going to appreciate the walk in there. And there's koi fish and there's a little turtle. I was dying.
It is. It's a lot of fun. Kids have a lot of fun going in there and looking at the turtles and the fish.
And it was so inspiring, and it really kind of helps you go, okay, I want this. How do I do it?
Of course. And we didn't mention that either, but we also sell all of the stuff somebody might need to build a fountain or a pond or a waterfall or some kind of water feature in their own yard. So from the stone you would need all the way to the pond liners, to the pumps, everything. We can help you out with all of that.
Well, and what also got me was, so here's a little tip, listeners. When you drive in on the left-hand side, this is for the Salt Lake City location, you'll see some boulders. If you're looking for a fountain, these are pre-drilled boulders that you can go and pick up that already have the work done that you can put in your yard, correct?
Correct. Or if you want to have one specially made, we can do that for you as well.
Amazing. Well, lots of help and amazing products over at American Stone. So thanks, Russ, for being on the show. And everybody, head on in for Memorial Weekend and get this $2.99 special.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Okay, we need to rewind a little bit because, Eric, you said adult-only section of the greenhouse, and I don't think people are going to understand unless they've been there. So why don't you explain what that was?
Well, it was a cute little section where she had put specific plants that have different shapes, sizes, and usage for specifically adults. And I don't remember the names of them, but...
Wait a minute, usage for adults? What are you talking about? It was like emojis. Oh my gosh.
Well, one of them was a Peter Pepper.
Yes, and I did buy that because I thought it was
an
freaking hilarious.
eggplant.
Yeah.
A zucchini, a cucumber.
Yeah, like really long cucumbers and stuff.
Right.
But like, not for usage. It was just a joke.
Of course.
Oh my gosh.
That's not what I'm trying to say.
I'm going to leave this in the show.
What I'm trying to say is it's implied.
Right. Yeah, it's all just a joke. Anyway, okay, so
It's
that
just
was
a
the
joke.
adults only section of the greenhouse. It was just Cynthia is just hilarious and creative, and she just
Spicy and hot things.
Oh yeah, exactly. There was peppers. Yeah, very true. And it was just cute how she had it all blocked off, and I just went to look for the video and couldn't find it for some reason. Anyway, so That's what we meant by that. It wasn't really like a literal adult-only section of the greenhouse. It was literally just a play on words, right? That's the best thing. Yeah.
Exactly, yep.
Because like eggplant emoji and stuff like that, some people use that for other reasons. And so, yeah, anyway.
Right.
Okay.
So what's the name
next.
of this episode? What's the title of this episode? Helpful ideas?
Well, this is episode 81. I have yet to name it other than I think it's going to be called Practical Gardening or Gardening Tips from a Practical Gardener.
Okay, here we go. So on-plant sales or going shopping, here's a couple things. And I have to read because it all just comes out of my mind onto the phone. Notes. Okay, so always have cardboard boxes, towels, plastic bins to put plants in the car. Another useful thing is obviously your floor mats to contain the dirt and water. Now, the other best thing or better thing, great thing, is find a friend. Now, I'm not talking about the app on your phone, but someone that has a truck. Because you're going to need bags of mulch, potting soil, all that compost, all those kinds of things.
Or in the case of what happened with us recently, how many bags of raised garden bed soil?
I think we're at 12 in the last couple of days. It's amazing. You do raised garden beds one year, and then the next year they drop down. And just obviously watering and air compression, all that kind of stuff that eliminates the space, so you have to keep refilling them.
But wait, that was a really good tip. Like, if you think about it, like
Really? Good, because I was nervous. I was like, I'm writing these things down, and she's going to be like, "Mah, mah, mah."
No, that's a great tip.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah, right.
honestly, no, listen, when I went to, where did I go the other day without you? And I was like, oh, Eric's going to kill me because I'm just buying more plants. But I was in the BMW, which is a brand new car for us. And we have the winter car mats still in the front seat where, you know, those car mats that are plastic with the little ridges so they hold water. And I ended up taking one of those out of the front and putting it in the back.
Right.
So that all the liquid could... Oh, it was when I went to Wasatch Community Gardens to pick up my extra tomatoes. Yeah. Because I'm in that special tomato testing program. Anyway, side note.
Another thing is obviously you've got these insulated bags, you know, so when you go to the grocery store, you can put your cold stuff in it. So a lot of people already have something like that in their car. Mm-hmm. But essentially, there might be some times where all of a sudden you're like at a box store or at a grocery store or even you see a nursery or whatever and you're like, oh, I could use a flat of petunias or pansies or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're like, but they just watered them. That's the one thing. It's like they just water them, all of a sudden it's just dripping out the bottom. So those essentially things that you can protect your car with is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And have them ready to have them, because we all know, us plant geeks and gurus, we're driving around and we end up somewhere, and of course we want to rescue plants from the plant shelter.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to be prepared. So yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. So the next one is know your plant limit before you go to the nursery.
Wait. You're talking to Gardening Utah people.
Okay, but so I'm not talking about how much you're going to spend.
I know.
But this is prepare yourself for the rest of your day, meaning prep the area that you're going to plant them in. Prepare the tools that you need. Prepare the plant material. You're laughing.
I don't think he's talking to you guys. I think he's talking to me.
Oh. Right.
Because I do what I just said. I rescue plants from plant shelters.
Correct. So what I'm trying to say is, let's see, let me back up here. Make sure you have the tools you need and the planting material so you can plant the plants you buy within a reasonable time frame. So here's the frustrating thing that can happen to everybody out there, not just us, but don't let them sit in the plastic pots and dry out or eventually root out of the plastic. So I've driven by houses in the neighborhood where you have flats of flowers that are left somewhere in the yard, and they've rooted through the plastic holes down into the garden.
It's amazing you can see that from the street, honey.
Well, when they leave them, you know.
Are you again sending a message to me?
No. Okay,
no, I would never do that.
All right.
I'm the Gardening Utah lady.
Here's another thing that we have. So we have the cardboard, we have the towels, we have the things. We are out there's either a party, a birthday party or whatever, and then all of a sudden we go to a nursery.
Cactus and tropicals.
Sure, and we buy stuff. Now, we still have places to go, and then we buy plants early in the morning, and then we have other places to go, and then all of a sudden the day warms up, and the plants are in the car, and then they can suffer, and the plants, get overheated in the car or whatever. But you weren't essentially planning on buying plants that day.
Sure.
Right? So, what I'm trying to say, going back to what I said, is know your plant limit, or know when you're going to go buy plants and then prep things when you get back. So you're not dealing with all of a sudden you've got plants that have dried out, you forgot to water them, or they sit and are unplanted for,
Well, there's two things
weeks on end.
Yeah, and there's two things that this just made me think of. One is houseplants in the winter.
Right.
A lot of people, because that's when you're like really jonesing to garden, and you go and buy houseplants and not realizing that you're dragging them through a snowstorm when they're leaving the gorgeous, beautiful, humidified cactus and tropicals nursery, and then you're taking it outside in a snowstorm and complete shock, and then you go to 10 other places or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
But it also is a really boon to hardening off. I know that, if you're buying straight from a greenhouse, let's say Lambert's, I shop at Lambert's all the time. And you do need to get those plants used to sunshine and wind and things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you just need to be patient. I know some people, Liz. Well, Liz can grow anything, but Liz Hamilton sometimes says, I never harden off anything. Just put it where it's going to go. And, everybody has their own experience. I know that at a recent plant sale, I didn't know that the plants weren't hardened off. It was more of an urban backyard sale.
Mm-hmm.
And when I thought they were. And so when I planted a particular plant, it lost most of its leaves within the course of 2 days. Now it's going to survive.
I guess that's the point that I was trying to say, is like, know before you go. So, yeah.
Know before you go. What's that slogan? Are we going to get sued?
No.
Okay.
Nope. All right. So here's the other thing. Okay. Here's the last thing. Other things that you should have in your car as you're going out are Ziploc bags and a Sharpie. Because every gardener I have met collect seeds and starts of plants wherever they go, even into foreign countries.
Oh.
And they make their loved ones, friends, wait for them to collect these items. I have even been a human shield, so no one can see Jana pick seeds.
Wait, is this a roast?
But I admit that I personally have taken starts from the happiest place on earth.
What? You took a start from Disneyland?
Oh, no, now we're going to get sued.
Oh, I should edit this.
So what I'm trying to say is, definitely as gardeners, as people that are trying to put new material into their yards and garden boxes, all I'm trying to say is there's certain things that can help your day go a little bit faster, a little bit easier if you just do a little bit of prep before you leave to go shop and buy things.
Okay, but there's not a Sharpie in our cars. So what are you talking about? Oh, wait, is there in yours? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not in mine. That's funny. Good idea. What did you take from Disneyland? I'm really distracted.
It was succulent starts. I'm a sucker for succulent starts. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
That's what she said. I had to do it. That was why I did the long pause. Okay, what else you got, Practical Gardener?
Oh, okay. My last thing that we'll do today, it's observing your yard. Be an observer. So I guess this is really something that in the last 2 or 3 years, I'll walk the yard, I'll sit, and I'll just kind of pause and kind of take in what's going on in the yard. In the sense you kind of just start to learn what's growing, how it's growing, the way that it's trying to reach for sun, the way that it's being blown in one direction from wind, those kinds of things. I'll just get to
Is the root crown exposed? Does it need more soil on top of it?
And there's certain things obviously like robins, we have raccoons, certain things like go to certain areas to look for food, and all of a sudden you've planted something and they've dug something up the next morning. Like,
Yeah.
those are things that you kind of need to look for. So I always say walk your yard or garden at different times of the day and different times of the year, because you're going to learn different things in different times of the day and different times of the year. Mornings are the best for me just because things are starting to wake up. It's cooler. Those kinds of things can kind of show you.
There's nothing like a morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. No. So I'll just kind of go through this real quick here. Sit or stand still and observe the yard and garden. Be still for a few moments and watch for how the area lives. So bugs, bees, caterpillars, ladybugs, all those different kinds of things. If you just kind of watch it, then you can kind of learn, what it needs, what it doesn't need. Kind of going back to what I said earlier, I always like to obviously have my phone with me, but write down notes, take pictures, or even voice record ideas and plans as you walk or sit in the yard. So it's like, I could use a stone path here. I could use a bench here, maybe a swing there. Oh, maybe an umbrella there. Or, okay, this time of year, these weeds are popping up, those kinds of things. Or I need more mulch here, because you'll have the idea come in your brain, but then all of a sudden it's like, it's gone as soon as you start your day.
Well, and it's true. In fact, just today, I was walking our iris path because right now all the iris are in bloom, and I was walking we have a pathway to the river that we've built through the years of iris rhizomes. So we call it our resurrection garden. But we put everything back there that we don't think is going to live, and it still does. But one of the iris that I noticed was popping up. I was like, wait a minute, what's the name of that? And then I remembered, I have an iris notes section in my iPhone notes. And I went back to that. And every time I bring an iris into the yard, I document the year and the name and where I put it. And then anytime I think, this color might look better with that color, I'll say, next year, move toasted watermelon near Dorothy Davenport. So if you iris lovers know what I'm talking about, it's a fantastic color combination. Anyway, I concur.
Another thing that I know we've done before too is going back to taking a picture. Essentially, it also makes a date marker, right?
Absolutely.
So you're like, when does that plant bloom? Or when does that tree, throw the fruit? Those kinds of things. And so you can look back and a picture that you took a year ago, then you're like, that's right. So we've even now blocked off the month of May, not to vacation, because of what things start to bloom in the yard. And so it's like we have traveled before, and I think we were gone for a week once, and we missed, a bunch of things. Obviously, we got to spend time with our son somewhere else and visit him, but we did miss certain things that bloomed. And
see, you guys, I'm not the only freaky gardener in the household. Yeah, we literally don't want a vacation at certain times of the year because the yard is just too pretty.
Yeah.
And it's prime planting time. And if you're a vegetable gardener like I am, we grow a lot of our own food, and this is prime time, baby.
Yep. All right. So my last thing is pick a zone or an area to work on and plan to start and finish that area.
Oh.
And try and make it as small as possible in the sense of I'm going to take this garden box, or I'm going to take this corner of the yard. And I always tell myself, move with a purpose in the sense of okay, I know if I have to go get a tool and I walk by a patch of weeds, I might end up picking those weeds for 30 minutes and not getting to the zone or the area that I started with. And so it's one of those things where it's you almost have to focus yourself to finish planting plants or getting mulch put into one specific area, because a yard is overwhelming. Everybody knows. It doesn't matter how big it is. Even if you've got just a balcony with, 5 or 10 pots, it can be overwhelming to the point where you start a project and you never finish a project in the yard.
Sure.
And I think that's pretty much I love to fly fish, and you're not really catching fish. You're just always fishing to try and catch a fish. Same thing with a yard. You're never finished with the yard. You're just always constantly doing a new project or, moving things, planting things. But
it never ends. It's like a house.
But it's always fun to be outside.
That's right.
So those are some things that, for this week at least, and maybe you'll invite me back.
Oh, is that a hint? Well, okay. Well, thank you. These are very reasonable, practical things that are, you don't really think about. And it's nothing that, like I said earlier on the show, nothing that a master gardener or a horticulturist is going to talk about. But these are more just like, hey, as you're out gardening, think of the following things. And as you're out buying plants and going all around.
Yeah. This is not professional advice. Please do not.
No, it is. I mean, it is in a way. I mean, there's no science behind what we're talking about, which is good.
No.
Yeah, because
just ideas to either use or don't use.
Yeah, and I know I'm really glad that you didn't roast me for losing garden tools and some other things.
Oh, that's coming.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
We'll talk about those in another episode. Okay, I guess I will have you back, and we're gonna have to put in our iPhone notes for next time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one of the things that I know we get into is like when you go out to pull weeds, always take a bucket, which I do not.
Well, don't make more work for somebody else.
Oh, he's looking straight at me. Hey, look. If I go out and just like to give the chickens a treat or to fill a bird feeder or to check the river height, I may or may not find a patch of weeds and just get after it.
Well, here's one thing that I have learned though about weeds. Okay, so let's say you pop a couple of the dandelions out of the ground and they have not
gone to seed.
Gone to seed, or even just opened up to a yellow flower, right?
Oh, okay.
If you lay them on the ground, they still will do that. So let's say it take 2 or 3 days, and any kind of unflowered plant.
Okay.
Eventually, if I don't know why I'm using that word. If you pull it from the ground and lay it on the ground, it will still go to seed. Mm-hmm. Not all of them. No. Not everyone, but definitely a lot of them will. So all I'm saying is
I think you're going to have to be my emergency guest now. I think Cameron just got dethroned.
No, Cameron is awesome.
I'm teasing.
That's progressiveplants.com.
Oh, wow. Wow. You're a pro. I'm liking it. Wow. Okay.
Anyways, little cool ideas that can maybe help people or give them a laugh while they're gardening.
There you go.
All right.
There you go. Well, I hope everybody has an absolutely fantastic Memorial Day weekend, assuming you're listening to the show this weekend. If not, later on, still love you. We've got quite a weekend coming up.
Yeah,
why don't you tell our listeners?
Of course, yeah. We've had a foreign exchange student from the country of Spain, city of Madrid. Her name is Sarah, and her parents are flying in tomorrow to spend a month in America. They're going to be driving up to Yellowstone, driving to California coast, and then going to go see Route 66 and then southern Utah. And we'll be hosting them.
And they're going to stay in our guest house, and I'm really excited for that. I'm just having a little bit of a hard time because we've obviously become extremely attached to our sweet Sarah.
Yes, but now we have a foreign country to go steal seeds from.
That's right.
Yes.
Steal seeds from. Wow. Okay, I see what you did there. That was a great little wrap up. All right. Well, wherever you are and wherever you're listening, we hope you grow big or go home.
Like, subscribe, and share.
You're a pro.
Hey everyone. So, know before you go was a slogan from Smokey the Bear. Smokey the Bear wanted you to know the fire restrictions in the area that you were going to camp and have a great time. And as we start this Memorial weekend and you and your family members go out to enjoy this beautiful state of Utah, know before you go if you can light a fire. Also, when you're done with that fire, know before you go. Know that the fire is completely put out. Also, thank you to all the men and women of our military that have served Happy Memorial Day, everybody.